think the flexibility with the structure was surprising for me. I think I'm not super familiar with life coaching at all. As far as how it can be complementary and different from what therapy is, and I feel like therapy kind of has this kind of loosey goosey in session, but overall there's a structure, and I think life coaching is surprisingly the opposite. So there isn't this structured we meet and we have this goal of overcoming a certain trauma or overcoming whatever. But during the session, you pop up all these little tiny micro goals that are actually they're really easy actually to like come back the next week and do. And I don't think therapy is kind of structured the same way. So that was very surprising for me that there's actual forward momentum with life coaching that I wasn't expecting. For me, I think it's been life changing, honestly, to wake up in the morning with this kind of idea of viewing my world more from the perspective of like a written script almost, rather than just kind of like freebasing the entire day. It's changed how mindful I am of what I do moment to moment. So I used to just kind of roll out of bed and my day would be whatever, but I'm a lot more careful with my time. And I think that life coaching has made me more cognizant of the fact that we're here for a limited amount of time, and that if there are things that you want to accomplish, it's really important to have like a guide kind of bring that out of you and bring that to the forefront of your life so you're not sitting and scrolling on like TikTok all day. I'd heard of life coaching because in the past I'd had friends that had done it, and I kind of listened to like what it was they did, and I was like, oh, that just kind of sounds like therapy, sort of. But with Mo being somebody who was a friend of mine from like theater type stuff, she approached me about it. I will just say yes to anything because I like fun times. So any chance or opportunity to work with her, I'm absolutely going to say yes every time. And so I did. And it was, I got way more than what I was expecting out of it. Oh, yes, actually. So before I met with Mo, I had this like distant childhood dream of being a published author. And I never really took any actionable steps to make that happen. I had a bunch of drafts sitting in my closet. And when I started talking to Mo, one of the first sessions that we did, she asked what my overall life dreams were and what my life career goals were. And I shared with her that I always wanted to be a writer. And she's like, okay, we can work on that. And so then by the course of the like 12-week session that we had with each other, I went from wishing that I was a writer and just that being like a lofty dream one day to where I actually got a one-on-one Zoom meeting with a literary agent. I finished my first draft of a debut novel, and I am in the process of querying that novel and have already gone through several developmental edits and gotten phenomenal feedback on it. So it's something where I didn't even realize those micro steps I was taking, but I think working with her weekly and her just kind of being an accountability partner slash cheerleader for my own life goals and career goals has really helped me actually take steps that I didn't even realize I was taking because it didn't feel deliberate in the moment. It kind of just felt like a natural thing to do, to be like, I'm just going to keep writing. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to submit it, because you have somebody in your corner literally coaching you the way a coach would for a basketball team or for like track field runners. An athlete needs a coach in order to bring out their best performance. And I feel like human beings, especially in this super busy world, need coaches to help them like live in a way that's very deliberate. So I think that's one of my best accomplishments throughout working with Mo is finishing my novel and getting it in the hands of professionals who can help me get it published now. It changed, I think, because so there was one friend that I had before who was a life coach. And if I'm being real honest, it kind of seemed a little, oh, I'm trying to think. There are some services and products that you just don't need, but if you have enough money to afford them, then it's a pretty cool luxury, like a pet spa for like your dog. It's something it's like, I can wash my dog at home, but if I have lots of money, I can also take it to this boarding school where they're going to feed them fancy stuff and like take them jogging all the time. And I kind of always saw life coaching before working with Mo as that kind of like extra thing that it's like, no, you don't need that. It's just like for people who really want their life to be super pampered. Whereas with therapy, I always saw it as like a necessary part of existing on the planet. And I think that I have like moved life coaching not equal to therapy, but absolutely for somebody who is not trying to look, who isn't necessarily trying to work through PTSD or trauma or things that therapists like focus on, but they do need an extra leg up. Like, say they do have a goal of starting a business. I feel like that's life coach territory. You know what I mean? And that's something that I don't think I ever saw in my brain a realistic place to put a life coach in every layman day's like life. And now I think I do. I can see how they're really relevant for everyone. I put them in the same category as realtors, honestly, because I think you don't think you need a realtor until you're in the middle of trying to sell a house or buy one. And then you're just like, oh, I need a realtor. So it's like that. Yeah, it's just life. Yeah, yeah. It's the realtor for your life. They help you. Yeah. I don't think I realized how talented I am, which sounds very vain now. But again, I'm working on the confidence thing. I think I didn't realize how much I beat myself up before working with Mo. I think I just kind of thought being like self deprecating and very hypercritical was honestly a good character trait. It was something that kind of was a mark of self awareness that it's like, no, I'm garbage and that's great. But even saying that out loud now feels so wrong because over the course of working with Mo, she just kind of was like, let's be really deliberate about what we say to ourselves because what we say to ourselves changes the way that we view the planet and view ourselves walking through this world. And so I made a point to make it an exercise to, instead of saying self depreciating things to myself when I was upset or when I felt like I failed at something, I would just pat myself on the back instead, which is a very opposite response. And it helped. And I think I was very surprised about not realizing how many times a day I would just sit there and like spin negative thoughts through my head. It wasn't until she was hearing me talk all the time and recognizing that pattern in me that we were able to work on it together and kind of just like make that something to grow out of. And I think that I've grown in my confidence since then just because I've changed the way that I've spoken to myself. Yeah. So the way that I would describe my experience with life coaching is like when you go to a doctor and you get an annual exam, they'll give you a sheet back that shows you what like your blood's doing in your body and like things like that. And when you look at that paper, you can kind of really have a visual assessment of, oh, this is where I need to work on. Like my cholesterol's out of control, but it's stuff when you wake up in the morning and you grab the Starbucks and you grab the McDonald's, you're not really thinking about the fact that that's affecting your cholesterol. I think the same thing's happening with the life coaching where it really does, it kind of takes your own head off, and it's like when you're playing a video game in third person point of view where you're watching the little avatar go around. I think that life coaching really helps you play life like that, where you're not just so close to yourself, but you get to separate yourself a little bit and give some distance, and that helps you honestly change, I think, because I think when you step outside of it and you're able to look at your actions from an objective third party perspective, like what Mo is able to help do because she is a third party coming in and she kind of holds out the sheet for you and she's like, here's where I see you at and here's the stuff that I'm pulling out of you. And so when you, that hour long session, it's just her helping you sit back where she's at and to view yourself through the lens of somebody else. And I think that makes kind of assessing everything a lot easier, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think that she is really, really a lot more confident than she really gives herself credit for. I think that the shyness that I embodied before was really coming from a lot of insecurities that I just honestly was completely unaware of, if we're being quite literal with it. And I think too, something that's very bizarre about life coaching versus therapy is that with a therapist, I think sometimes it can take years to get to uncovering those type of insecurities because it's not really structured around a goal oriented mindset with therapy. They don't really have a goal with you. They're just kind of like, you're here. And if you want to cry for the entire 60 minutes, that's fine. And I think that with Mo, there's really a deliberateness to keep the pace high and the tension thread going. And so there's like, you're crying now, and that's great, but can we explore that crying, or do you not want to explore the crying right now? And so it gives the option to not just sit stagnant for like months and months and months on one thing, but it really opens the door for we can utilize this emotion right now, and we can apply it to one of your goals, and we can see what box it fits in and see if that's helpful to feel, or if it's something that we can work on getting rid of. And so there's always this like motion of placing things in different categories, keep or disregard, and just back and forth. Yeah, I would say that I'm a lot better at it. There's definitely some improvement to go. I think there's a lot of times where we're just lazy because we don't want to do the work, but it's something where I'm at least aware and mindful of the fact that I am making the choice in the moment to be like, I don't want to do this. And that at all is growth, because I think that I have the self awareness now to make the choice to be like, I can either hold on to this negative thing and carry it around with me. And now I have to deal with the later repercussions if that's the choice I make. Whereas I think before I just kind of was holding stuff and I was like, I don't know what's wrong. And so, yeah, it's a lot easier for me to kind of like take that off of me and put it where it needs to go if I choose to do that. It's been a lot better. I really, really like the fact that most specifically is just she's just personification of sunlight. And so when you're talking to her and you're around her, you cannot help but just be elevated and lifted and breathe easier and feel just kind of like nice and bubbly, because she's so optimistic and she views things from such a we can do this team kind of attitude that I feel like I'm back into like a children's like TV show. And it's nice because I think that really does elevate you emotionally, even like from a subconscious level. Even if you are having a bad day, there were several sessions where I was just straight up depressed, and even though she was sitting with me in that emotion, she wasn't like dismissive of it at all, but also she was very cognizant of aware of a way to help me kind of rise out of that throughout the session. So when I started a session really sad and really lost, through whatever magic means it was, we were always able to get me on the other side of that by the end of the session. And I think that's something that I really just think it's a positive attitude on life. And I think it goes back to the self-talk. And when you're sitting in those dark places, we just sat through and we worked through it in a way that allowed me to see a positive side of that coin. So now it's a lot easier for stress to not get to me, even in very, very tough situations. I find that I'm a bit more resilient than I was months ago when the same situation would have happened to me. I think it would have probably taken me out a little lower than it does right now. So that's growth in my opinion. I wasn't seeking the life coaching at all. And so what's interesting is that I think if somebody's already at a place where they're already considering life coaching to begin with, then they're at a great place to start with Mo, just because I only did this because I like Mo. I think if it was just a random person that had an advertisement for life coaching, I don't think I would have remotely considered it. Um, but I think that for somebody who's already researching it and wants to go do it, I can't think of a con. I guess I can't think of a downside to trying it. It's like somebody who is interested in doing massage, but have never done massage before because they're like, that's a luxury. I don't need a massage. But then once you get a massage, you're like, I don't know if I can live without this anymore. That's how I feel like life coaching kind of is. It's like a massage for your like psyche. I don't know. It's something that it very much complements regular mental therapy if somebody is already somebody who really cares about forward progress and improving themselves. You just want that little extra touch on top, I think, to really make sure that you are serving yourself in the best way. And there is nothing else on the planet that is worth investing in more than yourself so that we can live the best life possible here. So I feel like life coaching is just a way to love yourself and just give yourself something that's, yeah, it is looked on as pampering for sure. It's definitely not like a necessity like water or food, but it is something that I think serves your soul. And I think that we forget and neglect that sometimes when we're trying to take care of our bodies. We don't think of taking care of our emotional and mental health the same way that we take care of making sure we eat and sleep every day. But I think taking care of that is just as important. And I think life coaching is a really, really good way to ease yourself into doing that. I actually, yeah. So before I started this, I was in a pretty similar place as some of my friends. We were all just kind of we're in our 30s. Some of us have kids now, and I think you can hit kind of like this slump in your 30s where you're reconsidering going back to school even. You're just like, what have I done in my 20s other than like drink? So it's something where you're wanting to mature, I think. I think we reached this kind of plateau where we're just kind of done and we've reached a new level of wanting to grow up. And I think that for like my friend group, especially, a lot of them are going back to school. A lot of them are getting their masters. A lot of them are doing entire career shifts. And those are things that I think life coaching absolutely can assist with. So I reached out to one of my friends who was genuinely considering just like going back and getting back into like nursing school, which is a pretty lofty thing to do in your like 30s. And I was just like, well, if you need like assistance and accountability and somebody to just kind of like be there for you, I have a friend that does life coaching and she's a good person to like, help you through that process. I don't know if she ever hit her up, but I did think of people who could use that because a lot of the changes that I made in my life for the better right now, I absolutely credit Mo with that because I don't think it would have popped in my mind to even go that direction without somebody in my corner like rooting for me because I don't think we do that enough for ourselves. I would say that I started out very self aware, which is something Mo actually brought up when we were meeting in sessions at first. Um, but I would say that over time, instead of working on the self awareness, she just kind of geared and crafted that self awareness to paying attention to things that were actually productive for me. And so I've been able to kind of like hone the fact that I am very analytical and I tend to overthink. And instead of that spinning into anxiety and panic attacks, it has helped spin me into productive things. And so I will sit there and not dread to death an item. I'll just stop and be like, what is it that I can use this like incredible mental power for right now? And then I will sit down and I will write or I will read or I will journal. And that's something that Mo really helped me kind of find a path for. So it's it's been really eye-opening because I think too sitting out in public and walking by people, I do a lot of people watching because I do like acting and so one of my favorite things is to sit in the mall and just watch people go by and like look at conversations and see how they interact with each other. And it's interesting to see dynamics and people and their relationships and wonder in my head like are these people sitting back a little bit and are they actually observing the way they're speaking and the way they're behaving and how they're feeling right now in their posture and really taking that as a holistic view because that's something that I started thinking about now. Like I'll notice my posture when it's slumping and I'll be like, is that an emotional thing? Am I okay right now? And I don't think those are questions I would have previously asked. It's like scheduled meditation. I think everybody has, not everyone, but people who really want to take on mindfulness, they want to sit alone in a space and they'll just sit and close their eyes and meditate. I've tried thousands of times throughout my life to be a meditative type of person, but because I overthink so much, it was really hard to quiet my mind. And I have noticed a lot of improvement in my ability to just sit still with my own thoughts in my own body because working with Mo has made me so comfortable to do that and to sit in my own head and I don't think I would have been able to actually sit still and meditate. And now I can sit for several minutes and just listen to the birds and listen to the trees. And I don't have to go fidget with something or go find an activity to do. Existing is an activity. And that's something that until Mo had like brought that up, it's something that I was always feeling ashamed or guilty for not doing enough and not working hard enough on goals and I think also it was like pre burnout before even starting something because I was so dreading the process. So I think that's also a huge reason to why I've actually reached my goal of finishing a novel now is because I wasn't always in my head dreading the process of like, but I got to do this and then editing and whatever. I just thought positively. And then I was able to meditate through just sitting still enough to let myself do the work and not let my head spin it into something crazy before anything even happens. I think that I would be actually able to accomplish the things that I feel like I was put here to do. So, um, a huge part of my life is a spiritual component, and I feel like there is a reason we exist here together. And I think we kind of lose that thread from childhood through becoming an adult and getting bombarded with like the bank and the bills and kids and things like that. And life coaching allows you to come back to yourself and prioritize yourself first. And I think that kind of lets you walk back into your childhood to kind of pull back up why you're even here, what you're doing here, what you want out of life. And to actually do that, I think makes the world a better place and it lifts everybody up. Because if you're happy walking around following your dreams, other people see that. And not just kids that want to emulate that, but just other adults your age will see, oh my gosh, they were 34 and they did this and they accomplished that. So maybe I can do that too. And I think collectively it just raises other people to be able to accomplish their dreams when they see everyday people around them start to do that. Yes. Yes. I think that when you finally find what you're passionate about and what you want to do and what you were designed to do here, I think everything else comes to line. I think when you're spending every single day fighting to work at a job that you hate, in a relationship you don't like, with friends that don't respect you, you're always trying to fit yourself into some sort of box or mold. And I think what Mo did specifically for me is that she took me out of that box and mold and she's like, you don't have to be whatever it was that you think you're supposed to be. That doesn't have to be who you are. You can make yourself whoever you want to be, but it's up to you. It's your choice. And so having that freedom to be told that I'm absolutely okay, however that ends up becoming, really does genuinely make me okay with myself. And it allowed me to set goals that do align perfectly with what my talents are. And I think that before I was just kind of running uphill trying to like fight to fit into a like stuffy setting that didn't fit me just because I'm supposed to be there and I'm supposed to want to do that. But I found way more success going left field and being like, I hate all of this and I'm just going to do me instead. And that has actually blossomed into so many opportunities that have opened up for me because when you start doing what you're good at and what you're talented in, people start recognizing that. And then they literally just start asking for you. And they're like, you're good at this. Will you come help me with it? And it's like, I'm just doing it because it's fun, but now I'm getting paid to do it. So it's really cool to see those doors open for you as soon as you just start to like relax a little bit about life. Mo is incredible. I have a whole lot of respect for her as a person, as an artist, as an individual, and I am extremely proud of her. That's not necessarily anything you have to add in like a thing, but I really respect her, and I think that she does a phenomenal job opening who you are instead of just trying to say, well, this is how I got my success. This is how I got here, and trying to basically like shape people to be little mini Mo's out there. She doesn't. She looks at you and she helps you become you. And that I highly respect. I would also love a world of mini Mo's. Do not get me wrong. I think that would bring world peace and harmony. I think that is the best outcome for human evolution. Unfortunately, I don't know if God would allow it. So